Barakim Habarim, welcome to Messianic Moment Ministries. I'm Stephen Bruck, and I'm glad that you're here. Today we're doing a double Parsha to finish the book of Leviticus. And in this double Parsha, it starts with God giving the instructions regarding the Sabbatical year and the Year of Jubilee. He further gives the regulations regarding the redemption of one's property, which includes slaves, when the Jubilee year arrives, as well as regulations for the proper way to price the property in relation to the expected value received between the time of sale and the Jubilee year. The last Parsha of Leviticus is also the end of the book, as I said, and Leviticus has different sections which relate to the different aspects of one's life. The rules for the priesthood are the sacerdotal sections at the very beginning. After that, we had ceremonial rules, followed by the ethical rules, and now we're in the final section, which is basically an admonition to the people to maintain proper worship, followed by the warning against disobedience. In this final chapter, God tells of the increasingly terrible curses that will fall on the people as they continue to disobey and reject God's instructions. And as the end of every book in the Torah, we say, Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazek, which means be strong, and let us be strengthened. Leviticus is the central book of the Torah, and the instructions we are given in this book are the foundation upon which we build proper worship of God. I wonder how many people really know what that term, worship of God, means. From my experience with people throughout my life, whether they are spiritual or secular, I think they see the worship of God to mean going to synagogue or church each week and trying to be a good person, whatever that means. For Jews, it's a little more complex. You see, we believe all the law, statutes, and commandments in the Torah are still binding, whereas just so many Christians have been taught they are exempt because they believe in the Son of God. I still don't understand how someone can say they follow the Son of God, who was 100% obedient to his Father, and then in the same breath, they say they are exempt from obeying the Father, which is something the Son never did. I mean, if the Son says he obeys the Father, and you say you follow the Son, then shouldn't you also obey the Father? In my opinion, the proper way to worship God is to live in the manner he tells us we should. We should not reject his commandments regarding, what foods are to be eaten. Although we can reject the Talmudic rules of halakha, that means the way to walk, because those are man-made laws. Now, I'm not saying we have to reject the entire Talmud. Actually, I say we should study the Talmud because there is much wisdom and understanding in there. There's also a lot of dreck, which is Yiddish for rubbish. So we need to tread carefully, separating the wheat from the tares. So, am I under the law because I believe the Torah is still valid and binding on anyone who says they worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? No, I am not. And the reason I am not is that I know no one can obey the Torah perfectly, which is why we needed the Messiah. I also know that salvation comes through faith, but having faith doesn't mean we don't have to try to be obedient to what God says we should do. All right? God provided the Messiah explicitly because he knew we would fail to obey him perfectly. So to protect us from ourselves, he sent Yeshua. Yeshua was our ideal example. And when we accept him as our Messiah, we should try to emulate Yeshua, just as God has always said we should emulate God. Remember the statement God made very often? Be thou holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. The justification Christianity gives for rejecting God's commandments and regulations, which, like it or not, is exactly what you do when you don't obey the Torah. It comes from misunderstanding and misinterpreting the letters that Paul, wrote to the different congregations he formed throughout the Middle East during his missionary work. And look, for the record, they were never churches, all right? They were kahilot, which is the plural form of kahila, which is the Hebrew word for congregation. Did you know the word synagogue is not from Hebrew? It's Greek. It's a Greek word, and it means a place of assembly, which is also a definition of the word ecclesia or ecclesia. It is only in modern times that synagogue has been associated solely with the Jews, and ecclesia or ecclesia is considered to be the Christian church. Look, there is no statement anywhere in the entire Bible, from Genesis through Revelation, where anyone says Jews must obey Torah but Christians don't have to, or anything in any way that states God allows anyone to reject any of his laws. However, there are plenty of places where God tells us that to obey him is to live, but to reject him is to die. The New Covenant tells us faith is shown through works. That's James 2:14. And that even though grace trumps sin, it is not a license to sin. That's Romans 6:15. Look, the one absolute command that is found throughout all religions is to obey. In Judaism, the Orthodox, more often than not, will go to the Talmud before they go to the Tanakh. And in Christianity, they go to the Pope or the World Council of Churches, or whichever body their religion gets its rules from. But in all these cases, they are going to human beings and not to God. It is up to each of us to decide how we will worship God, and that depends on who we will obey. We can obey our religious leaders, or we can obey God. As for me and my house, we choose the Lord. Whom do you choose? Well, thank you for being here, and please like these messages, share them, click the icon here for YouTube, go back to the website, click the subscribe button in the right hand margin, and subscribe to both lists. Please, they're different. And if you like what you hear in these messages, you will like my books as well, and they are available on my website, messianicmoment.com. And please, don't be shy if you want to add something or make a comment. I really do welcome them. Well, that's it for this week. So, Lihitrot and Shabbat Shalom.